त्यागेश्वरं रामकृष्णं शारदां मातृरूपिणीं विवेकानन्दमाचार्यं नत्वा वक्ष्यामि शुद्धये योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च भैषजेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि. In our last class we discussed the Chaturvyaha or the concept of fourfold aspect of Yoga Shastra. How Yoga Shastra is fourfold, how it is Chaturvyaha. And the Bhashyakara, Vyasa, had drawn simile from Chikitsa Shastra or science of medicine. In Chikitsa Shastra, just as we have roga or disease, then there is roga hetu or cause of the disease or diagnosis. Then there is arogyam, that is state of health or state of absence of disease. And then there is bhaishajyam, treatment. So also in this Yoga Shastra, we have these four aspects. We have samsara or dukkha. Then there is dukkha hetu, the cause of this dukkha. Then there is moksha, which is absence of this dukkha. And then there is moksha upaya, the means of attaining this moksha. This is the Chaturvyaha. And Vyasa brings this up because this is the prelude to the next sutras. Next sutras are going to deal with this Chaturvyaha of the Yoga Shastra. But in the sutras, slightly different words will be used. The words will be heyam. Heyam means what is to be got rid of, what is to be discarded. That is heyam. It is compared to roga, or that is bandha, samsara, whatever you call it. He will define, Sutrakara will define what is heya, what is to be got rid of. Then there is heya hetuhu, that is the cause of heya, cause of what is to be got rid of. That cause is to be known. Then there is hanam, which is destruction of what is to be destroyed. There is moksha or arogya in the Chikitsa Shastra, hanam. And then there is hanopaya, the means to attain this destruction of heya, destruction of what is to be destroyed. The hanopaya means to that. It is like bhaishajya, there is treatment. So these four terms will be used. Heyam, heya hetuhu, hanam and hanopaya. This is the Chaturvyaha of the Yoga Shastra. This actually is very important for all spiritual seekers because this tells us what exactly we are trying to get or trying to achieve. It gives us meaning and direction to our life and efforts. If we analyze, we find that all our activities, all our thoughts, actions, whatever you call it, all our efforts, so to say, are basically spring out of or are basically meant to satisfy one basic urge. That urge is dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti. This is the basic urge in all beings. We want to get rid of misery and we want happiness. This basic urge, this manifests in various drives, in raga, in attraction, in liking, in wanting, or in dvesha, in trying to get rid of, or in fear, clinging to life, all these. The basic urge is dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti. That is the basic urge that finds expression through these various drives in all our activities. Unfortunately, the worldly means that we apply, that we take recourse to, they fall short. We want something, we think that that will give us happiness, we work for it, we get raga, attraction towards it, we work for it, we get it, but before we have enjoyed it, we lose attraction and something new comes up. We get attracted to something else. And this goes on. So also we want to get rid of something, we think that a particular situation, particular thing, particular person is causing trouble, causing misery, we want to get rid of it. We develop some kind of aversion towards it, dvesha. We get rid of it, but before we have got rid of it, something else crops up, which again becomes a cause of aversion. So this dukkha nivritti, sukha prapti effort through various drives, it goes on and it has been going on life after life, and we have not found the ultimate solution to it. And this is where the Yoga Shastra or the spirituality comes in. After these repeated efforts, by grace of God, sadhaka realizes that all the material or the worldly efforts at dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti are always going to fall short. Whatever the world gives or the worldly efforts give, that is temporary. That is how the earlier sutra told. Sarvam dukkham vivekina. There the word sarvam, it can be interpreted as all our efforts at dukkha nivritti and sukha prapti also. All those efforts at sukha prapti and dukkha nivritti, they ultimately, parinama, will land us in trouble. They will be temporary. They will not be permanent. The result will not be permanent. They will not yield any permanent result. So, finally, a person comes to realize that I want atyantika dukkha nivritti and paramananda prapti. This world and the worldly efforts cannot give me atyantika dukkha nivritti. Atyantika dukkha nivritti is complete cessation of misery, and paramananda prapti is eternal happiness. These worldly efforts cannot give me that. Worldly means cannot give me that. And then such a person takes recourse to, takes refuge in samyak darshana, that is the true knowledge, perfect knowledge, which alone can give us atyantika dukkha nivritti and paramananda prapti. This is the purpose of a yogi's life. This is the purpose of every spiritual aspirant's life. It appeals to the basic urge that we all have. We all have this urge of getting rid of misery and getting happiness. But what we get from this world is temporary. So finally, we understand that we want something which is permanent. Dukkha nivritti should be permanent. Ananda prapti should be permanent. And then that person takes refuge in samyak darshana. Pariksha lokan karma brahmano nirvedamayat. Nastya kritaha kritena. Pariksha lokan karma chitan. Brahmano nirvedamayat. Nastya kritaha kritena. That is which is akrita, which is eternal. It can never be caught by krita, by limited efforts. By limited efforts, unlimited cannot be caught. And then that person will take refuge to knowledge. So that's from Mundaka Upanishad. The same idea is here also. So this Chaturviha, that gives us direction, that gives us purpose. See, God realization, what is God realization? That's knowledge. God realization is knowledge. That will give us this atyantika dukkha nivritti and paramananda prapti. That appeals to the basic urge that we have, and that is what a yogi or a spiritual aspirant takes recourse to, takes refuge in, the realization of God, because that will give you what we have been eternally seeking, That is complete cessation of misery and attainment of eternal bliss. So that is why this Chaturvyuha becomes important. It gives a direction and purpose to our life. These yogis and Sankhyas, they lay more emphasis on dukkha nivritti, whereas Vedantists add Paramananda Prapti to it, but it's only a matter of emphasis. They both mean the same thing. It is the same state of Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti and Paramananda Prapti. It's just which of the aspects you are emphasizing. So having set this stage for Chaturvyuha, the Patanjali starts with the first element which we discussed briefly in our last class. Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. So the first aspect of this fourfold Yoga Shastra was Heya. What is to be got rid of. We should know what is it that we want to get rid of. And he says, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. Anagatam means na agatam, which has not yet come, which is future. Future dukkha, dukkha which has not yet come, that is designated as heyam, that which has to be got rid of, which has to be avoided, which is avoidable. So what is avoidable? What is to be got rid of? What we want to get rid of from our life is future misery, future suffering. It is defined. Vyasa, the commentator, very prudently points out that Atita Dukkha, that is dukkha which we have already experienced, that doesn't come under the purview of Heya, because for a simple reason it cannot be avoided. We already have experienced it. But the point to note is, yogi is wise enough to understand that what is past, we cannot go back in time and avoid it. It is already experienced. So it is best to put the past behind us, not to again dig the past and relive that sorrow, live again that sorrow. Yogi is wise enough. This Vyasa points out, the commentator points out, that yogi is wise enough to not to revisit, to not to relive the past misery. For him or her, it's a past. We cannot do anything about it. Though what we can do is, we can learn some lessons from it from a worldly perspective. We can learn some lessons from it and try to avoid those mistakes again. But what has been experienced, it cannot be undone. So that is not in the purview of what is to be avoided, what is to be given up, what is to be discarded. That doesn't come in the purview of that definition. So what is to be discarded, what is to be avoided, what is worthy of being avoided is future dukkha, anagatam dukkha. That is the first aspect of this Chaturvyuha Yoga Shastra, Heyam. The next is Heya Hetuhu. That is the cause of this Heya, cause of this Anagata Dukkha, cause of this future misery. What is the cause of this future misery? That is the second aspect. Just as we try to find out what is the cause of disease, so also in this Yoga Shastra we try to find out what is the cause of this future misery which is to be avoided. And the sutra is Drashtru Drishyayoho Sanyogo Heya Hetuhu. Drashtru Drishyayoho Sanyogo Heya Hetuhu. Hetuhu means cause, the reason. The cause of Heya, the cause of future misery which is to be avoided, is Sanyoga. Sanyoga means coming together. Coming together of two entities, Drashta and Drishya. Drashta and Drishya. Drashtru, Drishyayoho. Of these two, Sanyoga, coming together, is the Heya Hetuhu, the cause of Heya, which is nothing but Anagatam Dukkham. These terms will again be explained by Sutrakara himself, and that's how the Sutra literature works. One term is mentioned and then it will be explained. But Bhashyakara is giving us an idea of what is Drashta, what is Drishya and all that. But the overall idea is coming together of Drashta and Drishya is the cause of Heya. Simply translated, Drashta will mean the seer and Drishya is seen. So the coming together of the seer and the seen is the cause of future misery which is to be avoided. That will be the translation. Now what is this Drashta? What is this seer? This is where we are getting into the metaphysics of this Sankhya Yoga and all that. Metaphysics is study of reality, study of truth. So in common parlance we call it philosophy. So this is where in this and few next sutras we will get a taste of the Sankhya philosophy or yogic philosophy and all that. So Drashta, the other point that we should understand, and it's very important. We want to know what is Drashta. We want to get an idea of what is Drashta. Now, the whole of spiritual life is an attempt at trying to know the real nature of Drashta, the real nature of the seer. Brahma Sutras are called Shariraka Mimamsa. Shariraka Mimamsa. There is inquiry into the nature of the self, nature of the jiva. Same thing is here also. The whole of spiritual life is an attempt to know the real nature of this Drashta. And if we truly understand and realize the real nature of the Drashta, that will be the end of worldly existence. When we get the exact knowledge, complete knowledge, correct knowledge of the nature of the seer, that will be the end of samsara. We would have attained our goal. The point that we are trying to make is, presently we are trying to know what is the nature of this Drashta. It is this word that's come in this sutra. So we'll try to understand what is the nature of this Drashta. But our attempts will always fall short. Because if we succeed in that, that would be the end of the journey. And that will take a long time. With our present state of mind, it is not possible to have the samyak darshana, to have the exact, complete knowledge of what Drashta is. It is not possible with this present state of the mind for most of the people. So whatever we make an idea about Drashta, whatever we explain, whatever we understand, all that will always fall short of the real nature of Drashta. Our knowledge, our understanding will always fall short of the exact knowledge, of the complete knowledge of the Samyak Darshana. We should understand that. We will be grappling, so to say, to make an idea about what Drashta is. We will be grappling with that. So our ideas will keep changing. By Drashta, we will understand one thing today. After a few months, we will understand something different. It will be nearer to the truth. So what we understand today by drashta, it will not remain the same. Our idea will not remain the same. The nature of drashta, swarupa of drashta does not change. But our idea of drashta will keep changing. We will be grappling with that actually. So we try to make an idea, we try to understand what the drashta is. But we should also keep in mind that all these conceptions we make about drashta will fall short of the reality. Because when we know the reality of drashta, that will be the end of the journey. And whole of spiritual life is an attempt at trying to know, trying to realize, trying to have samyak darshana about the swarupa of the drashta. The whole life is that. Whole spiritual life is an attempt. We make a beginning, yes, we make a beginning. But we should know that this is just a beginning. So there will always be doubts, there will be contradictions, there will be confusions, which is but natural. We make some idea about the drashta, but then we'll find that it contradicts with certain other ideas. So this churning will continue till we realize, till we have samyak darshana. And with that point we should keep in mind. The Bhashya says, what is the nature of or swarupa of drashta? Buddhehe pratisamvedi purushaha drashta. Drashta buddhehe pratisamvedi purushaha. That is the definition of drashta given here by the Bhashyakara, Vyasa. Needs a bit of explanation. Samvedanam means awareness, consciousness, knowledge. The samvedanam of buddhi, here buddhi means chitta or antahkarana, the mind stuff as we call it. Now we are aware that our mind knows, we know through our mind. Our mind has the ability to know. It has the capacity to know. Now according to the Vedanta and also according to Sankhyas and Yogas, this mind is insentient by itself. By itself, it cannot know. Simile can be given like there are various objects, say a piece of paper. Compare a piece of paper with a mirror. Now you take both of these in the sunlight, mirror will reflect the light, whereas a piece of paper will not reflect the light. So mirror has the capacity to reflect the light. By its constitution, whatever you call it, it has the capacity to reflect the light. A piece of paper has no capacity to reflect the light. There is this difference. Antahkarana is like that mirror. It has the capacity to know. But if we take the mirror in a dark room, it can't reflect light because there is no light in dark room. So there won't be much of a difference between a piece of paper and a mirror in a very dark room because there is no light at all for the mirror to reflect. You take them in the sunlight, you will find a difference. Antahkarana, it is sattva pradhana. Sattva guna is predominant in antahkarana. It has the capacity to reflect the knowledge, the consciousness. But the consciousness has to come from Purusha, from the self. So the mind, we are aware that it knows, but the power of knowledge is borrowed by the mind from the Purusha. And that's what is meant by Purusha Buddhe Pratisamvedi. That which lends its consciousness to Buddhi, which has the capacity to reflect that consciousness, is Purusha. See you in our next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.